Alrighty, well, good morning and welcome to what we're calling Sunday School. Over the summer, as you may be aware, we typically just have one event. Sometimes we have something separate for the children, but this summer, what we're really focusing on is doing this in here. So if you could just maybe get the doors in the back, that way if there are folks who are outside who need to finish their conversations, they can do that. And we will have our conversation in here about the Dothan Rescue Mission. And so a ministry we've been supporting and will continue to support. I'll let Chris Grandstaff, who's with the Rescue Mission, share what's on his heart. You'll have a chance to ask questions about that as well. But let me begin with a word of prayer, though. Let's pray together. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for grace and love and joy and hope in the midst of all that's going on. Father, please have mercy. Give us strength to not grow weary in doing well. Father, thank you for the ministry of the Rescue Mission. I would ask that you would provide for them and bless them and make it be a place where the glory of Jesus Christ goes out among all peoples. We ask in Christ's name. Amen. All right, so Chris.
Well, good morning. Y'all are awake. That's always good. Done had your snacks and everything else. That's always great. Been involved with a few churches that got that in between, so I always like a snack. So, but thank you to Mr. David. When he called me a couple weeks ago and asked me to come and share about the rescue mission and kind of where we're at and where we've been, I was like, we've been where everybody else is, in quarantine and in trouble. But how it affects the rescue mission is a little bit different. So I want to start by saying, and I think I may have said this before, we consider ourselves like an 8-cylinder engine. And when all 8 cylinders are working correctly, kind of like your car, it's going very good. And when one of them goes bad, then you're in trouble and we have to address that cylinder to get it firing like the rest of them. So kind of going from our 8 cylinders, you had the women's lodge, the men's lodge, the family lodge, the chapel, administrative building, you have the warehouse, you have store 1, and you have store 2. So that's 8 cylinders. So if we're short in one area, we got to kind of make up for it in another area. So where we've been through this quarantine, I guess to the best of my knowledge, am I right, it started about in March, when we started hearing about this in March. So I'm going to break down some of our 8 cylinders for you and tell you what we've done and the measures we've taken place and kind of where we're at now. When this first started, we were very, very close to getting the project done for the Game Changer program from Wired. I think maybe the last time I was here, I talked about the Game Changer program where Wired had an initiative where they were giving out money to local nonprofits, and I think she talked about it as well, Miss Amy. We had received money for that. So our money was to remodel our kitchen. So we were going through as a nonprofit, we have to have so many different quotes from different organizations. So the board looks at us and says, they're doing their due diligence and not just going with the first price. We want to make sure we get the best price for what we're doing. So we were getting very close to starting that project when this hit. That stopped. So that stopped completely. And we couldn't even get in business to get quotes. So that's kind of the first thing that we saw. In the kitchen, what we done in the kitchen, we went to no meal tickets. So meal tickets is if somebody like yourself that's not staying with us would like to come eat with us, you come in during the week and say, hey, I just need a meal ticket, and then we would serve you food as well. So you're not so much our clients staying with us. Off the street people can come in, they have a house, they have everything, but instead of maybe one week they're struggling and instead of buying groceries, they need to put their money somewhere else, they may come eat with us that week. So that's what I think I said last time, we're graded the same way a restaurant is because of that, because we serve the public as well. So we did no meal tickets, and our plans to remodel got pushed back. The lodges, men's lodge, women's lodge, family lodge, we did not take any new clients in. So I'll get to where that ran into in just a minute, but we did not take any new clients in March. The stores slowed down to about half of their normal income. About 80, we normally say from 75 to 85% of our funding comes from our stores, and that's because it varies month to month, good months to bad months, you know, kind of where it's at. Well, that funding dropped to about 50% of what they're normally doing. So that's how that affected us at the administrative office and how we could prepare for the clients that were actually staying there. April, still no meal tickets, and we started eating in shifts. So for the people there, we started eating in a couple of different shifts, not everybody at the same time. Reason being is social distancing and all that kind of stuff. The guidelines were set by the state of how many people you could have in a certain area and that kind of thing. Well, like the second day that we had set the guidelines in, the actual police department come and checked the kitchen. And they checked and made sure we were going by the guidelines. They're not doing that in a bad way. They just want to make sure everybody's going through the same thing. So don't look at the police department as a bad thing as far as that. We are just looked at the same as a restaurant. So if they're going to look at the restaurants that way, they have to look at us that way. So it was difficult, got through it, but we were already eating in the shifts. Lodges, once the guidelines were set, we made adjustments to the beds. How many of y'all have actually had a tour at the rescue mission? So several of y'all, have y'all toured the men's lodge and stuff like that to see how the beds are set? So there's 16 beds per room, and they're bunk beds. Well, what we had to do was separate the people in order to make sure we had 6 foot of distance in each one of those rooms. And at the present time, we had room for that when the guidelines were set. So that's kind of how we were. We just made them move beds, you know, instead of sitting, you know, side by side was what the bunk they may have been given when they first come in. Scoot over a bunk, leave a bunk in between you, you know, put one at the other side. So we had to make some adjustments there. The stores, they were closed. That's when the guidelines closed us. We were not considered essential, so they closed us down. That's zero income coming in now. For 75, 85% went to 0% from 50%. So we took that time to actually clean the stores. I don't know if any of y'all go into our stores to shop, but we cleaned the stores up, did a lot of deep cleaning in there. We did pay our employees. We continued to pay our employees through the entire process for that. This was not something that they done on their own, so we felt like it was our job to continue to pay them through this process. So we did continue to pay. On May, the guidelines were relaxed. Kitchen, still no meal tickets, and we were eating in shifts, still no chapel. I think y'all may have come and done chapel before, that kind of thing. Still no chapel because we couldn't have new people coming in. Lodges in May, no meal tickets. Stores, we opened them back up when the guidelines were kind of relaxed. We opened them back up, and the donations are still very slow. It's very different. I mean, from us, when the customer pulls up and wants to drop off their donations, normally we go out there and we take the donations out of their car for them, and they didn't want that. Let me just lay them here beside the car. Y'all come out and get them, and then we'll leave. You know, because everybody you just don't know about how quick or how this virus is spreading. And I know each one of y'all have heard 1,000 times and 1,000 different stories of how it is spreading, and we all don't know that, from touch to airborne and we're all cautious with that. And I see the mask today, and where I'm at with my wife's on staff, they wear the same thing there. I did tell them I have not worn a mask yet. I probably should, but I don't. I just take the precautions of cleaning my hands very well when I get into the truck and that kind of thing from where I've been. Careful on shaking hands, that kind of stuff. I do have a sister-in-law that's a nurse, and I do go by pretty often and get tested to see if I have been in contact with it at some point in time in my system. So she does that for us to make sure that we're still good and we haven't been in contact No, I have not been tested for it. I just want to make sure, because I have no symptoms, but I just make sure I hadn't come in contact with it. They say that test is brutal. Has everybody heard that? That the COVID test is brutal. So I didn't want to go through that just for the fun of it. So, but that was I'll get the blood test. That's fine. So, as we stand now and looking ahead, churches have started back bringing their food to the chapel or that kind of thing, but they're not serving food. We're not allowing them to serve food. We're not allowing them to do chapel. But they are, some of the churches said, hey, we still want to help y'all as best we can to bring you food. So they'll bring it to the back and they'll drop it off and they'll leave. So that's kind of picked up. We are open for meal tickets. So we're back serving the public again and eating in one shift. The lodges have started taking in a limited amount of new clients. What I mean by limited amount of new clients is if one person checks out, I can take one. 2 people check out, I take 2, just to make sure I can keep that social distancing in the lodges as well because of the close quarters and that kind of stuff. If you've been in the kitchen, you kind of see the women sit on the left, kind of the family sits in the middle, and the men on the left, and I'm just looking out. And I think I've told y'all, or if you've ever done a tour, I told y'all why that is, and separated all the families that way. The stores are picking up. May was a little bit better as far as the income because everybody was ready to get out of the house, and they just rushed in for the 2 weeks. You know, hey, I've got to get out and do something. So that was very good for us to, you know, get some income coming in. But now it's kind of slacked back off, and everybody's taking and heeding the warnings. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the last couple of weeks, last week, it's ramped up again in Alabama. Is that correct? And getting a little bit worse, or a lot worse in Alabama. Warehouse, there goes another engine. So through this process, when we get back, or don't say bad clothes, but clothes we wouldn't sell in the stores, or shoes we wouldn't sell in the stores, or if we've had it on the shelf a while and it has not sold, we replace that. And what that does is come to the warehouse, and I think I've talked about this before, we build that up, and then we send it to third world countries. So instead of getting zero money for it, we get pennies on the dollar for it. Well, right now, we can't sell that stuff. And it was twofold. So Ramadan, overseas, they closed down for a month, okay? And that, I guess that's kind of like their Easter. Pastor, you can kind of help me with that. Just kind of, that's kind of like their Easter over there. So they closed for a whole month. So all the warehouses that we would ship our stuff to have closed. Well, where we would ship our stuff in the States, now they're dealing with COVID. So it's a twofold street of the stuff that we have. So I have like 3 to 4 loads of merchandise or goods to send to third world countries now, and we're at a standstill. So I still don't have money coming in from the warehouse side of it as we speak. I'm hoping that opens up in the next few days to where we can at least send some stuff and get some money coming in for the warehouse. If you know where the warehouse is at and the rescue mission property is at, you've seen a new roof going on the warehouse. That's a good thing because it leaked very bad, but that was from Hurricane Michael. And they're just now getting to us from Hurricane Michael. That tells you how far they're backed up. So we've started working again on our process of remodeling the kitchen. And some of these businesses, maybe not local, but the distributors of the big places are still closed. And to be honest with you, I need one quote, and I'd be done. Just one. And I'd have all my quotes and ready to go. And I still cannot get the one quote because the people they need to contact are closed. And to kind of give you an idea of the kitchen, I don't know how long it's been since y'all been there. We do have a chef, licensed chef in there now. We have another girl or lady that's been trained to be a certified chef. She's going through the school at what is that called now? I call it the medical center. It's changed names, but y'all know what I'm talking about, the medical center. So Southeast Health, is that right? So they have actually a culinary school there now, and so she's going through that school. So some of the things we're doing is looking to what benefits the kitchen, the flow of the kitchen the best. We're taking out all the wood in the kitchen and going with stainless steel, because wood contaminates a lot more than stainless steel, especially when you're doing that as much as we are. We're taking the wood out of the cleaning area and going, and some of that will be stainless steel built, and then a dishwasher that can wash so many at one time, and then you slide it down. So it's just a process. Dishwasher is the holdup, I'll be honest with you. We have replaced the stove, so all that got done, kind of a step, in the right direction. And then once we get the actual kitchen part, then the chapel will be remodeled as well. So it's all in the same works. And, it could happen tomorrow. I could get this quote and we move on and get that knocked off my list. But that's kind of where we're at as far as the rescue mission, how COVID has affected us, what we've had to do with it. I'm going to tell you in the last kind of story of where the overview of how it's affected us. But I want to give y'all some stats of so far this year. Meals served, 9,271 meals is what we've served so far at the rescue mission. Through May is what these totals are. Beds provided, 4,764 beds. Total people served, 17,395. That number you'll see is a little bit higher because you still have people that come in and need help with clothing. They need help with rent, electricity, transportation. So transportation cost got a lot higher. So do y'all know why? Transportation costs got a lot higher. Bus tickets, that kind of thing. So I'll give you it's not funny, but it's a story that was, when COVID hit bad and it was in New York, and it was very, very bad in New York, and they were on lockdown and everything else, a guy come to the mission and he's like, I wanted to get out of New York. My family and everybody was sick and everything, so I just got on a bus and I ended up here. Well, we can't take you. You know what I mean? We love you, but we can't take you. So we gave him a ride back to the bus station, and we bought his bus ticket back to New York, and he went back to New York. So he was in Dothan for somewhere around 30, 45 minutes waiting on the bus to fuel back up and head back to New York. So we can't take any chances because of all the people we have staying there and the concept of that. So transportation cost has been very big. We have, if we're at full capacity and somebody's come in, we've used transportation budget to send them to another facility or back home with family because we don't have the room. So turning them away, we don't turn them away to the streets. We did the best we could to put them in another facility, contact other people to see if y'all have room, or send them back home with the family. So little statement right here, it cost us about $40,000 a month is what it's costing us when we still had no income. So that's a big hit to us, but we were able to make it. God blessed us through people like y'all, through other churches that continued to give, and bless us so that we could show the light that God has shown us to others in this tough time. So we are looking forward to it reopening, to where we can get back going with our chapel services and get back, doing the normal activities. The stores are open and running now. The truck's picking up donations now. But all that's still very slow. People are still being very, very cautious because we just don't know. And just this, it ramped up this week, like I said earlier, for Alabama. We got to be careful. And this is difficult times for churches, to where, I don't know if y'all, did y'all close it all for a while and do just online, or did y'all stay through the whole process? Just online for a while. I've been in church since 9 months before I was born. And I've never seen online church. That means my mom was in church every Sunday. My dad's a pastor, and I've been in church. I just don't miss church. That's something I do. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. That's how I was raised. And, you know, I raised my family the same way, but I've never seen just online church. You know, that was new for my dad to pastor and, you know, at churches where he's just preaching online. I'm not comfortable with that. You know, to preach to a no audience, or sometimes it was at the house for a Wednesday night Bible study. He said, that's so awkward to me, you know, because you got to have somebody. So it's not you like you're just talking to yourself. You know what I mean? So so it's been difficult for all of us, but by the grace of God, we will get through it. He's in control of everything. I firmly believe that. This was not a shock to him that this was going to happen. I do believe that as well. So we just have to continue and be, you know, prayerful that he'll keep us safe, but also that we can get back to what I would consider the new norm. Whatever the new norm looks like, we accept it, and I'll be the first. You know, I don't like a lot of change. I'm good with a little change, but a lot of change I may not like, and I'm sure y'all are in the same boat as that, as not liking a lot of change. So at this point in time, I'm going to open up for questions. I just wanted to, you know, and y'all ask anything. I'm open to any kind of questions, how it's affected us and everything else. But that's kind of the overview of where we've been and what we're waiting on. So as soon as I get, and that was what I was asked to speak about, was where we've been. We were ready to remodel the kitchen and get that engine back running again. So it's just as soon as I get that quote, that engine will be running again. As soon as I get people to buy my merchandise from the warehouse, that engine's down too. So and let me rephrase that sentence. I can sell my clothes now, okay, for free. So that, I don't know if you call that selling or giving away, but I could sell them for free. Well, that don't benefit me. And God's blessed us with a big enough warehouse that we can just hold on till we get some money. Some money is better than just donating the clothes to them to hold till they can get money. So it's just a process of how we're looking at this. And I did hear this week that, believe it or not, they are accepting toys and books is the first thing being bought from third world countries. So I had to go back, and so you say, well, do you have toys and books? Well, I do. But they won't pick them up unless you have an 18-wheeler load full of toys and books. So that's the way, because if not, they lose money for trucking, hauling that if they don't have a full load. So last week, so I'm close. I think I'm like one Gaylord. So hopefully next week I'll be able to send a truckload out of toys and books and then put some cardboard on there as well. And that will get some money rolling in and free up some space for actually this, you know, the belts and the purses and the shoes and all the clothes we have. I think we have about 66 bales of clothes at 1,350 pounds a piece. So I don't know how much weight that is, but that's what's sitting in the warehouse ready to go. And before we went to this COVID, it was running about 19 cents a pound. So you can find out, you know, figure that up in your heads of how much money that is that I'm not being paid for. And I'm still giving money out every month for transportation and keeping the people there. Does that, you know, the clients, because we're not going to let them go. We still got to buy the food. Still got to pay electricity bills, cable bills that come in, all that stuff. We're still doing all the that stuff, but we just do not have the actual full bore income coming in. Does that make a little bit of sense? Go ahead.
So you were talking about, you said something like 4,000 beds, and you said 17,000 people served. What is that measured, or is that just a yearly thing, or is that your entire?
That was January through May. And how that's sitting there, we have 100 beds. And so if you come in tonight and you check in, you're going to get wrote down as a bed. If you leave and somebody else comes in tomorrow, that person will go down to bed. But if you could stay 2 nights, that will count as 2 beds given. You're taking that bed for 2 nights. Does that make So that may not be 4,000, what was the number, 4,764 different people. Some people may have stayed a few nights. Does that answer your question? Okay, all right. No, what, you have to do, and when you do the math of 9,271, we serve 3 meals a day. We have cut it down to 2 meals a day for right this second, except 2 days a week we serve lunch. We don't have the amount of people there because of the COVID, and a lot of the people we have are working, so they're not there for lunch. So there's no need to prepare a big lunch if we're only going to have 1 or 2 eat. So we just do bag lunches for them and or whatever small thing for them. We don't not feed them, but that's just kind of, we're not serving a big lunch and count those numbers. So, go.
What sort of donations for your stores are you all in need of right now, or are you in need of any?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. She asked me what kind of donations that at our stores are we in need of. I would answer that everything, but miscellaneous items is always slow, and y'all may call them knickknacks. We call them miscellaneous. I mean, I try to use. Somebody told me knickknacks before, and I had no idea what they're talking about. So knickknacks, miscellaneous items, that's always a huge thing. Women's clothes, men's clothes is always a big deal. I think I said this the last time. Men's clothes, we just do not get a lot of donations of men's clothes because men, let's be honest, we wear our clothes out. I mean, I probably wear the same 8 shirts in a row. You know, just keep trucking. And that's just how we do. And when we get tired of them, then we donate them. But a lot of those you can't sell, so we don't have a lot of men's clothes to sell. And, you know, that's just the truth about the matter. Furniture, I can speak on furniture. Furniture donations, used items of that has been very slow. We have lost our new furniture. The contact we had with that, they closed. So that was nothing to do with us. He retired. And since he retired, we lost that. So you say, what are you going to do now? I'm going to wait till everything open so I can go find out what to do. So there are options, but the options are closed right this minute. So Ashley's Furniture was what we've always gotten before and been able to work with them. But he has retired. You'll still see the Ashley brand. They have a new owner, but we had a great working relationship with them. No big deal, just we need everything else to open up so we can go and figure out what to do from this standpoint, because that's a big draw to your store. May not be a big seller to your store, but it's a big draw to your store to come in and get, you know, to be able to look at furniture or different stuff like that. So we're looking at other options as well. And I know in the past we've had big events where you cannot do them right now either. So we're locked down on a lot of our things that would be our, what I'd say, our big money makers, from concerts to events and things like that. That's all shut down. So it's kind of a, I will survive. Isn't that an old song? Look at, is that right? Isn't that an old song? All right.
Prior to COVID, did you use volunteers in your store to, like, fold clothes or hang clothes?
We do. We always welcome volunteers. There are different groups that do it all the time, and then there's people that do it just because they enjoy it. Miss Susan and Price, I will tell you her last name. I couldn't think of it for a second. For about 20-something years now, she's done all of our books at both our stores. She's a volunteer. She comes in, she sorts the books and puts them on the shelves for us, and she's been a volunteer for probably 20 years for us. Very grateful for her to do that. And when we had the store, Mariana, she did it as well. So grateful for that. So volunteers are needed at all times to do, whether it be sorting to what's good and what you can sell to what you really probably don't need to put out there, and you would not believe the things that are donated. So what's good to sell and what's not to sell. And then kind of put them in a section, fold them in as the, you know, the actual workers come in. Kind of how this goes is when they come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, they walk their sections and they're looking for hangers on the floor or pants that have fell off the hangers, and they're hanging it up. But they're also looking to what really sold yesterday to find out when they hang up today what I need to replenish first. Does that make sense? And so we kind of watch that close as far as, hey, making sure everything stays full, because one day it may be shirts, it may be scrubs, the next day it may be, you know, kids' clothes. And we concentrate on those levels as far as to make sure the shelves are as full as possible. So is that, but you could call at any time to either one of the stores. Store 1 normally, which is on the south side of town by Ollie's and Dirt Cheap and all that. So that's store 1. Store 2's in the old Eagle Eye building on the north side of town. But store 1 normally takes the volunteers because it's bigger. I mean, not to say store 2 would not take it. It's just they don't have as big as work area in the back. So, but they would probably welcome it as well. So, other questions?
Where's the location of your warehouse?
It's actually on property now. It's actually on property. So, oh me, you're going to check my memory. Our office sits at 216 East Crawford Street, and it sits the other way on South St. Andrews. So I don't know the address. But if you're familiar, it's the old Tidwell building, old Tidwell Furniture Building. It kind of looks like an old Army barrack kind of building. It's a round top with the block sides on it. It's about 12 to 14,000 square foot. I would have to check with that. But it actually sits on property. So that helps very much to where my women and my men can go over there and help sort the shoes and the clothes and get them in the baler and that kind of stuff, so we don't have to travel them somewhere else to get that. So that we've actually purchased that when it become available, so that helps a lot. And I'll come back to somebody right in here. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you, were you required to test the people?
No, we have not tested the new people that come. Maybe we've done temperature, that kind of stuff, and watched them to make sure. We didn't test them. Me and the boss go test because we're one of the ones that's hand in hand with them every day on different levels. So, but we've not tested in them, and thankfully God's blessed us not to have that. Because y'all may understand, but everybody don't understand this. If we get shut down because of something like this, these people are on the street. I mean, they're going to be sleeping on the sidewalks, all that, you know, in Dothan, because they have nowhere to go. And I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, I'm going to say, maybe longer than that, but a couple of weeks, a lot of your tent cities have shut down. I don't know if that's city organized or if that's property owner organized, but not to say they don't still have tent cities. I just know several that I know in the area, they're not there. It's no trespassing. You go to another place, no trespassing, all that, and it's so that's very. I did not know that, and then one of the times I noticed it was like me and my boss was driving back from somewhere this week. And he said, did they still have the tent city in here? And we looked, and no, it's no trespassing there now. So they're somewhere. We just don't know where. So they'll relocate to somewhere for a while. So other questions?
I just had one about referring people. I know now it's different, but prior to COVID, what would be like the ideal referral for you as far as, could they be on medication or, like, what is your screening process really, and what makes them, for lack of a better word, ideal client to be able to stay at yours?
None. I'm going to answer that just as honestly as I can answer it. The screening process is not so much like that. When they come in, it's, you know, they come in at 4 o'clock and say they need to check in. They may come in earlier and say, hey, you know, you need to be here at 4, and at 4 o'clock, they'll go through the rules with them, and we check them in. Obviously, they do not have a place to stay. Once they check in, then it's me and Brad that kind of figure out, hey, you know, what led you here? What, you know, what's the situation? This day and time, you just don't know. And I'm not going to go into that here, but I would on a tour of what we're being cautious about and things that we're looking for. Things draw our attention in different ways. So we're very aware of what's going on, and so we pay a lot of attention to that. But nothing, they come and check in, and like the hospital may call and they may discharge somebody, and so they'll come. They just have to be able to get around for themselves and take care of themselves, and that, you know, that's the main concern there. And then, you know, police drop them off as well. So Brad gets calls all kind of night to do that. So not really a check-in as far as that's concerned. Last I remember was 3. We had one family of 3. So I know that she's had a job for a while. So, and she was looking that they had an apartment that they were getting ready for her. So I think she may have moved out this past week. So then the family lodge is opened up. So we actually do now have a family lodge manager. So that lodge is ready to go again, because for a while we did not have a lodge manager. So that one's ready to go again. Everything's good at the women's lodge. Everything's good at the men's lodge. Kitchen's engine's down, warehouse engine down, and the stores just need to pick up a little bit, and we'll get back to normal. So, other questions?
What about, Chris, the other programs that you normally do? Don't you do a lot of helping folks learn about job interviews and things like that?
We do.
Doing those?
We did not. We kind of halted all that stuff, and I won't say social distance from it, but we did as little contact with everybody as possible. The women still have their stuff going. Okay, the women still have all their classes and different things going on with the women, but they have one-on-one stuff, they have group stuff going on. They do have that going on because of the way they're meeting in the warehouse in the front section, and it's spread out, and they could social distance and stuff in there. Men, no. So we've kind of cautioned that until we can actually get them all in one room. Computer room is very small. It's probably that small right there. And so putting them all in one group to do that. Now, if somebody's got a job interview or something like that, we do work with them to make sure that. So we filled out resumes for them. We have filled out if they lost their job and they need to do the workman's, you know, employment, however you say that. We've helped them fill out all that stuff for them during this process. So we do still do all that, but we have not actually started back those classes of teaching, you know, resume training, job skill training, computer skills, life skills, interview process. That's things we've always done, but we have put a halt to that for right now until this comes, or at least slacks up a little bit on us. Yes, I do. I think I'll need volunteers when that opens back up, because I think, you know, when that opens back up, you lose a lot of stuff. You get new people, but a lot of other ones say, hey, that was my time to kind of back off. I mean, I've had a volunteer at the office for, I guess since I've been there, but different ones. But this lady's been there with us for probably about 2 to 3 years, and that was kind of her calling to say, hey, you know, I'm going to stay at the house, which is fine. I mean, I respect all that. But so we will need a new group of volunteers for sure. And when that, all you got to do is get in touch with Mr. David, tell Mr. David, hey, this is an area that I would like to volunteer in. He'll contact me and just let me know, and then I'll sign, put a piece of paper to contact you or whoever when we open back up, and we can meet and how to get that working. And it may not be you. I'm just saying how that process would work. If you would like to do that, we would love to talk with you. Groups at school, kids, they come in, they've not come in. homeschool groups have come in, they stopped coming in, so it has been a big volunteer thing in the past, and now it's big employee thing in the, you know, to get all the slack done, so you can continue to go like normal, so. Sure?
Do you know how many other, or if there are any other local, you know, very similar facilities, you know, places that do what y'all do? Are y'all the only one that really covers as much of a range as you do with stores and, you know?
The Ark has some housing up there. They do have a couple of stores. They may have 3 stores now. Jeff Peacock is over that. I know Jeff well. I don't know how many they can house. I do not know that. I know most of the time at Wire, they have them over there working on new rooms, so that can continue to go. Their program is a little bit different than ours. So giving you an example, if you're 18 and you want to go to the Ark to check in, that's probably not going to work. They would probably send you to us, and then once they have a, oh my gosh, it's a year or 2-year program that you have to sign up for to go through that. So it's a little bit different for that, even though, and then once one of those comes available, then you could get in at the Ark. So I don't know how many people they actually take off the streets anymore. So they would actually, you work together and they'll send them to us, make sure that, hey, this is a good client for your program, you know, that kind of thing. The Harbor, they do no housing to my knowledge, but they do food and stuff like that at the Harbor. I think that's the only 2 that actually, now Love in Action, they do clothing and stuff like that and food. So I'm not naming a thing on any purpose. I'm just going through my head of which ones actually, but we are the only housing, to my knowledge, us and the Ark, and everybody else is kind of a food and service, like service with clothes or rent or utilities or that kind of thing. A lot of them do that, so. And there's too many for me to name.
Just on a former.
You're fine.
Several months ago, I think there was a coalition being formed. I don't know if you were part of that in the city of Dothan, where they did a study. They went to, other parts of the United States to look at, I think housing and things of that nature. So where are we on that, and are you a part of, I work here in Dothan, and, you know, I'm always really aware of people who are homeless. So I kind of want to know.
You see it a lot more. I mean, once your eye, you just,
Where are we as far as the city, and I don't know if the risk commission is really a part of that move to really, really do some work on the homeless population?
all right. So I do know what you're talking about. And we were not involved with the initial trip or trips that they have taken out to different places. Once they come back, they wanted to get us involved. We listened to kind of the story. They've had some meetings on that, and I've not heard anything on that in several months. So that was, now, it may have stopped before COVID and will pick up after COVID, but I've not heard anything on that in several months. So, and that was kind of I think the guy from the Harbor and the Ark and then the city, and so I think that was, but we were involved with the meetings once they got back, but just not on the original setup. So, yes, ma'am. What,
Really try to, build or form a community where people who were homeless would able to stay and then they would have the job skills, the job, you know, just a community where the homeless people could live and really,
and self-fund themselves. So, am I talking loud enough where you can hear me? Okay. So, it was there's a program in another part of the country, and I cannot tell you, I was not involved with that meeting at all, but what they do is you would go through several step programs. So it would be like the rescue mission is step 1. And then you may go over here to another housing facility, and that be step 2. And then once you get through with step 3, they have a entire community out somewhere where they bought all this land and built these houses, and those people go out and live there. And then they have different things that they do out there to raise money to continue to pay their electricity, rent, all that kind of stuff. So they would basically be serving the public, being you could come and buy vegetables, or I know one of the places they mentioned had like a movie theater. You could, I mean, there's all kind of different things that they do to raise money for themselves, but it makes them become self-sufficient in this community. So that was the kind of the concept that they went to look at. Am I right? Is that right? Okay. All right. Because I've not sat on any of those meetings, but I've heard enough to, get by with that. So, any other questions? None? All right, we're good then. So, Mr. David, I'll turn it back to you. And look, I appreciate so much what y'all do for the mission, allow me to speak for the about the rescue mission. And I promise you, Brad, if he was not a pastor, he would be here today. He loves it just as much as I do to speak about it. I'm just a little more available on the Sunday. So thank y'all so much. We love y'all. Thank y'all for what y'all do for the rescue mission.
Okay, well, his day's not over. It's just starting, so it'll be several more hours today. So he needs to cut out but I want to pray for him before he goes, pray for the ministry. So let's pray together. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the grace you've given us to really to know you. Father, it all starts there. And then the grace you've given us to learn that all people, no matter where they're from, have been created in your image. And Father, we desire to see that image restored. We desire that the gospel would go out. I know that's Chris's desire, it's Brad's desire. They endeavor for that to happen at the rescue mission. We would ask that as it goes out, that your Spirit would be at work, calling men and women to yourself. And we would ask that you would continue to provide for them in astonishing, surprising, and unexpected ways. We would ask that you would pour out so much upon them, that the dreams they have of caring for people, the dreams they're not able to do now, would come to fruition. And so, Father, we thank you for protecting them from the virus. We thank you for the calling you've placed on their hearts. Guard them, please. Protect them from the schemes of the adversary and fill them with joy as they serve you. So, Father, we're grateful for the ministry and grateful that we can, in some small way, be a part of what you are doing in and through them, all for the praise and the glory of Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray. Amen. All right. Thanks, brother. God bless you. All right. All right. Thank you all for staying. It's good to be with you. God bless you. Have a great day.